Good afternoon, people. I've got my 2001 Lexus LS430. First thing I do is I'm going to take off the door panel. In order to take off the door panel, there are 7 screws that need to be removed. Here are the location of the 7 screws you need to take off. One screw is located in this little inlet here for the, I think, air conditioning, but there's a little screw right in there. You really see it. That one has to come off. There's also another screw behind this little panel right here that has to be pried off. There's one screw behind the switch module. I'll show you take it off in just a minute. There's another screw down underneath the door handle, and that's that screw right there. And finally, there are 3 screws on the very bottom underneath the rubber lining right here. Okay, there's one of the screws right there, but there are 2 more, one more here and one more at the back. To remove the control switch for the windows and the locks, you have to pry from the very back. I've already started the process, so it's already part way up, but what you want to do is put a pry tool right in the very back and pop it up. There's a little latch at the back that holds it in place. I'll show you here. This is the very back of the unit, and there's a little latch right here that needs to be pressed in order to pop the thing out. You can see right there on the front of this unit there's a little plastic lip that goes under the front, so you want to pry from the back to pry it up. Once you do that, you can just disconnect the wire harness, take this part off. To disconnect the back of the window switch, there's a little tab you press right here and pull out the little wiring harness. To remove this little panel, just take a pry tool, so you just stick it behind here in the back and just pry upward, and it should pop out kind of like this. Just held in place with a couple little tabs here, but it pops right out. And there is the other screw that you need to, one of the 7 screws you need to remove. Now I have all 7 screws removed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The door is still somewhat in place because there's still some more attachments. Behind the door are 4 little rubber things that are still in place. They just need to be pulled straight out to get the door loose. There's one here, one up here, one in the front, and one in the back. And now that all the screws are out, I'm going to free up the door panel by pulling on this left lower corner. You have to get a fair amount of force, but finally it will pop loose. There's another one up here. That may have popped out already. Yeah, popped out already. I have to do the same thing in the front here. Okay, so now I got the door panel loose from the 4 plastic inserts that snap into place. And the only thing holding the panel up right now is there's a little ridge up near the top that it hangs on. That's what's holding the door up right now. So if I lift the door up, the door panel up like this, that should get it loose. So now basically the door panel is off, but there's some wire connectors behind that have to be dealt with. So I now have the door released, the door panel released from the door. I'm using a little steps tool to hold it up because there's still some wire connections that have to be disconnected before you can actually take the door completely off. Again, you can see now here are the 2 little plastic things that stick out and hold the door in place. That's what you just pried off when you pulled on the door. This one is still supporting the door somewhat. So are these door lock handle things. So these things have a little ball in here and a little wire. This is a mechanical, not electrical type of connection. So I think what you're supposed to do is just pull it out here toward you this way. Then they pop out. Same thing with this one here. Then there's a little wire opening right here. Get the wire to go through there, and it should pop down and out. So now you got the two door lock and handle things released. Remember that green was on the lower level and white was on the upper level. And then I should be able to release this little tab right here and pull this connector out. The door is almost completely free. The only connection is a little wire going to the little light at the very bottom of the door. And here's the final wire you have to disconnect. You can see it kind of plugs in right here, and there's a little tab you press in and just slide this thing backwards, and that should release the final wire.